About 2 weeks ago, Elon Musk tweeted something about a question: what makes life worth living, or what does the best day of a life looks like? And I replied, and I said, I retweeted, and I said, winning a Nobel Prize and making love with a great woman, to a great woman on the same night I won the Nobel Prize. Until I started reviewing this video, preparing for this video, I didn't actually know what I actually meant by that, honestly. It came to my realization that I had two things combined together, two major human drives, the fear of death and sex. The fear of death being a yearning for meaning and a recognition, feeling valuable and then sex, making love to a very great woman at the same night. I told a friend that that was actually what my typical best day of my life actually looks like. Look, nothing can beat that. And I know a great woman, but I don't have a Nobel Prize. So the thing is that there are two major human drives. It is sex and the fear of death. Honestly, I don't know which. I can tell in my own experience which actually outshine which. These are the fear of death actually drives humans more than and the prospect of sex. It is not reproduction. Of course, you reproduce through sex, but that's not why we do it. We do it because it is fun and a little making love to a great woman actually offers us a respite from death. Making love to a great woman. I spoke about this with Sheldon Solomon in a conversation on Spotify. I will tag that in the introduction. So the thing is that a lot of things we do, which might include building the Great Pyramid, in the Empire State Building, and a lot of great things we've done are just one gigantic meeting ritual. Honestly, getting a good sex. A lot of what we achieve is all about getting good sex, but death overshadows sex because, as founded by the prisoners in Auschwitz concentration camp and in Nazi concentration camp, what they discovered was that a lot of men were not preoccupied with the thought of sex. That didn't cross their mind. The first desire in their mind was living and saving your friends. Surviving and saving your friends. For people who actually spent many years in the concentration camp, when faced with severe starvation and imminent death, humans do not concern themselves with sex. So I think the fear of death actually overshadows is the most powerful human drive. All right, this is how the study is done. The study that they proved established the episode 2, what is discovered, what we talked about in episode 2. If you were to remind people about their mortality, that should make them, psychologically speaking, need their cultural constructed beliefs even more. And then you can actually take that by measuring their attitude towards people who share their beliefs or different from them, or just merely opposed from them. To understand this, you have to check the previous video on this series, the episode 2 of this series. And I want to talk about sex, because this is sex is all we talk about these days. I'll talk about sex. I'll talk about nations, and I'll talk about suicide bombing. A lot of people are not familiar with psychological studies, so I'll break this down into chunks so people can actually understand. A group of people were reminded about their deaths, and they were brought into a lab. They were asked, you could be asked to write the thought that comes about your mortality, to your mind about your mortality, or they could ask you to watch a video or actually read something while they are flashing the word death in your eyes so fast that you can't see it. And after that, a group were divided into two, a control group and then a group that were actually used to actually to conduct the study. The control group were reminded about something that was unpleasant but not fatal. The other group was reminded about their mortality, and then they were asked to actually rate a list. I'll put that on the screen. A list from 1 to 20. Divided into this physical aspect of sex and the romantic aspect of sex. Although they were not told that these were actually physical or romantic. They were just told to identify the list, and the ones that are actually physical are in asterisks. And when they were reminded about their mortality, the people that were reminded of something unpleasant but not fatal were indifferent to none of the list. They judged everything equally, every single thing on the list equally. But when they were reminded about the mortality before rating this human contact aspect of sex, human experience of sex, they rated the human emotions, the physical aspect of sex more unpleasantly than a romantic aspect of sex, because the physical aspect of our sex actually reminds us of our animal nature. The second was that Christians were brought into a lab, and they were reminded about their mortality. They could be flashing the word death in their eyes so fast that they can't see it, or they could just be asked to actually describe what they thought of their mortality brings to them. Or they could have been shown gory images, or they could have been interviewed in the front of a funeral parlor for a while, and then asked to actually raise people. The Christians were asked to rate Jewish students and Christian students, and when reminded of something unpleasant but not fatal, they rated Jewish students and Christians more equally highly. But when reminded about their mortality first, they liked fellow Christians a lot more, rated them more highly than, and then they hated Jewish people. Germans, when reminded about their mortality, sit closer to fellow Germans and are far from people like Turkish immigrants. And this is not about the belief itself, it's just about what it actually means to them. Honestly, it is about because they are dead denying delusions. And the last one is suicide bombing. Honestly, a study was conducted in Iran, and Iranians were reminded about their mortality and were asked if they supported suicide bombing, or they were willing to become suicide bombers. In a control condition, they were not big fan of suicide bombing, and they were not willing to become suicide bombers themselves. But when they were reminded about their mortality, they were more willing to become suicide bombers, and they were supported suicide bombing. And here's the reason. The thing is that suicide bombers, of course, this is about the fear of death. How could they want to die if they were actually scared of death? Because when suicide bombers actually die, this is because they are not dead. Honestly, what they actually hope to achieve is mortality. That's why they actually try to create something so fatal that the whole world will actually hear them. They go to Jannah, or that's what they call it, 72 virgins in heaven. That is still an hope of immortality after that. And the same thing for soldiers who actually go to war. They want to be remembered. They want to cement something like their nations, who that will actually endure forever. So it is still immortality, even though they want to die. It is just symbolic immortality that they're actually yearning for, not the kind of physical immortality. They know that their country will live on, their culture will live on, their cultural considered beliefs will live on. And this is because this is not about the country itself, but because of what these ideas actually represent to us. They are death-denying delusions.